This is a Sandy Boy Productions podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to I'll Have Another podcast with Lindsay Hine. I'm your host, Lindsay, and I'm so grateful you're here today. Today you're listening to episode 345, and my guest is CJ Albertson. CJ placed 10th at the Boston Marathon just a couple of weeks ago. He actually led the race up until around mile 17. So we get to hear about what his thought process was in that whole situation and how he got through that entire race, how he feels after the race, and how he wants to tackle Boston again. CJ is a 2:11 marathoner. He runs for Brooks Running, and he's also a cross-country and track coach for Clovis Community College. And he is going to be a new dad very soon. So we cover a lot of ground in this episode, and I really hope you enjoy the conversation. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Koala Clip. This is legit the best way to carry your phone on the run, on a bike ride, whatever you're doing. For years, I tried to find the best way to carry my phone, and I never found it until I found Koala Clip. You just put it in the back of your Razorback sports bra, and there it goes. And also, if you drive somewhere, you can throw your key in there, your car key. You can throw your ID in there. There's enough space for all the things you need. I had a spring energy gel in mine today for my long run. So it's super convenient and simple, and it won't move around and jostle around. It protects your phone from sweat, rain, snow, and cold. All right, so you all can save 10% when you go to koalaclip.com and use the code ANOTHER at checkout. And when you purchase from Koala Clip, you are supporting a small woman-owned business. So that is amazing. That's koalaclip.com and use the code ANOTHER at checkout. All right, friends, if you are loving this podcast, please leave us a quick rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. That is one of the best ways potential new listeners can find us. We are wrapping up the month of October for all the new ratings and reviews over there. If you just send myself, Lindsay at sandyboyproductions.com, or my assistant, Emma at sandyboyproductions.com, we are mailing out a copy of Allie Nolan's book, Mastering the Marathon. We are going to pick a winner from all the new ratings and reviews to get that book. So make sure you get that in and let us know that you submitted it. We'll get you entered to win a copy of her book. All right, friends, enjoy my conversation with CJ Albertson. All right. Well, today on the podcast, we have CJ Albertson on the show. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Lindsay. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming. How are you feeling? What is in your world right now? What's going on?
I'm feeling pretty good. It's been an exciting, past week and a half. But yeah, now I'm just back into normal life, just back teaching and coaching. And we have our conference championships next week, and it's just kind of moving into the postseason. So kind of focused on that now. But yeah, it's been fun. I feel good.
It's so crazy when like a big life experience happens and you hit like a pretty big goal, and then the world just keeps on moving forward. Like, oh yeah, I'm still coaching. I'm still, it's just like normal life.
Yeah. I got home Tuesday, like after the marathon, and then Wednesday it was just back normal life routine. So, which I think I kind of prefer it that way. It's kind of nice to just be able to settle back into what you're doing.
Yeah, so for those listening and you might not know, CJ placed 10th at the Boston Marathon last week. I can't believe it's only been a week and a half, so congratulations.
Thanks.
Tell us about that race. I was on a trip with my family, so I was like kind of in and out trying to pay attention to the news, but I just kept seeing people tweeting that you were like leading the race by so much. And like, I want to know what he's thinking right now. What's going on? And, since I've read articles about, what was going on in your head and things like that, but kind of share with us what your goals were going into the Boston Marathon, where you placed 10th in a time of 2:11:44.
Yeah, so going into it, I mean, it was my first World Marathon major, so obviously first Boston, and so I was just excited just to run in a big race like that, and run against really good international talent because I just never experienced that before. And so top 10 was a goal of mine. There was a pretty deep field that I think initially I was ranked like 29th just based on like PRs and things, and then there's a few guys that dropped out, so I ended up being like 25th or 26th at the start line. But yeah, so I just wanted to be top 10, just kind of get a feel for the race. I knew I was in pretty good shape, so I wanted that fitness to be reflected in a race. And I was excited for the Boston course just because it starts downhill, and I knew that would be good for me to just kind of get me up like towards the leaders like to start with, and it's always more fun for me when I'm running close to the lead or with the front pack. So yeah, I was just excited for it, and then and then it finally came, and I got into Boston, and it was just the whole atmosphere was really cool. The weather was like amazing all weekend, and there was just like great energy like around the city, and so yeah, I mean everything leading up to it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, I mean, if anybody has run Boston, you know that the course is like significantly downhill in the first half of the race. And I'm with you. Like those first few miles, even though you know it's downhill, you get there and you're like, whoa, I'm like just like flying down these hills. So talk to us about your strategy there. I know that like you were just doing with what felt right, right?
Yeah, I mean, I really excel on the downhills, and I looked at the previous Boston splits, and so I knew that typically people run fairly conservatively on the downhill sections. But then there's also been races where it's been fast, and you know, like the year Ryan Hall ran 2:04 there. I mean, their first 4 miles were really fast, like all in like the low 4:30s. So I knew that sometimes people go out very fast, and you can easily run 4:30 for that first mile. And the whole pack could run that, or the pack could run 5 minutes. You just kind of never know. So I prepared myself to be able to run like right around 4:30 for the first mile. So like I did like a long run, for example, where it was somewhat downhill, and I opened up in 4:28, and then I did that was part of like a 23 or 24 mile run that I went pretty hard on. Um, so yeah, I was just kind of prepared to run the downhills, just kind of knowing what people had ran in the past, or what was capable of running in the on the top end speed wise. And so then when it got to the race, that's just what I kind of did. Like I ran as if the race was going to go out a little bit on the quicker side because I had prepared to do that. And then no one else did that, but I was just kind of running what I thought, was good to run. And then, yeah, I came through the mile like right at 4:32, and I was like, wow, this is like exactly what I planned. And then my next 3 miles were a little bit quicker because those continued to be pretty downhill, and I was feeling really good. So those were slightly quicker than I thought maybe I would be. But overall, I went out exactly kind of how I thought. I just anticipated the rest of the field going out a little bit quicker. And I don't know if anyone anticipated them going out as slow as they did. So it's kind of just more shocking because of what other people did. But I mean, I did pretty much exactly what I thought I was going to do.
It's so weird too because I mean obviously the pack was together, so it's like who's making those decisions? Like who is the person that's like, no, we're gonna like let's get back up with him now. And so like nobody knows what the other people are gonna do either. So they probably were all just like, we're just staying together. That's our plan.
Yeah, and no one really likes to lead. I mean, the wind wasn't bad. I actually didn't even notice a headwind. On paper, there was supposed to be a headwind, and I think the other guy said that there was, but I was just kind of in the zone, so I don't know. It
You
didn't
didn't
feel like
notice
much
it?
to me, but no. But yeah, I mean, when it theoretically when it is a headwind and like just early on in the race, no one really wants to lead, and so you're kind of just like, you know, it, you're like hoping someone else will take it, especially like when there's like a huge pack. It's kind of like I don't know what that psychological phenomenon is, but
Mm-hmm.
basically the more people, you kind of just expect someone else will do it, and so no one actually does it. So that's another benefit I think of like kind of going out in the front is it can make everyone a little uneasy because like people are kind of like, well, we should kind of go, but no one wants to be that person that leads it. So it just kind of, I don't know. I don't like being in the pack when there's people out front because and I know we're running slow because I don't want to lead my pack either. But I'm like, well, someone has to go. Like,
yeah, somebody make a
can't let them get
move.
too far. So it just makes you kind of uneasy, at least in the back of your mind.
I'm assuming your hope was like, I'm this far ahead at this point. Like, I'm going to get far enough ahead that they're not going to be able to close the gap.
Yeah, I didn't start thinking about that until like close to halfway, because I mean, I didn't think there was any possibility of them just letting me go completely. But then once I got to like around halfway, and I had like a 2-minute lead, still up until like 14 miles, it was like around 2 minutes. That's when I was like, okay, like winning is a possibility now. Like
Yeah.
I have a big enough lead. Now it's kind of up to me. If I can run fast enough, it's gonna be really hard for them to catch me, or at least hard for a lot of them to catch me. Depending on how fast I can run. So, but yeah, I mean, the first whole 10 miles, I never really, that wasn't even a thought. It wasn't even a thought that I'm trying to stay away. But yeah, once we got to halfway, and it was like, because it was growing all the way up until that point, which I wasn't. Every time I heard the split increase, because I knew what I was running, and so every time I heard them, like, the gap was increasing, I was surprised every single time because it didn't make sense, like why that was, like, I was like, this gap shouldn't be happening, but
Yeah.
whatever, I'm gonna go with it. So
What were you thinking when they finally did approach you?
well, I knew they were gonna be coming at some point, especially because I had been slowing down, and but I didn't hear them at all, and I didn't hear anybody say anything. So even though I knew they had to be coming like at any time, still when they initially passed me, like I didn't hear them at all, and then all of a sudden, like, there's a big group, and I also wasn't expecting a big group. I was expecting it to be more broken up at that point, but there was like 15 people, just this giant pack that just goes right by, like, and so it was kind of like shocking in the moment. Not that I was shocked that they came, but just like at how it all happened, and that there was this massive pack still with 5 miles to go in the race.
Did it, like, because I know that you dropped back and then you caught back up, and then you end up like getting, passing a bunch of people at the very end. But like, how did you keep your head in the game? Like, I can still finish a strong race just because they've all caught me and like people are passing doesn't mean I can't still finish this straight thing really freaking strong.
Yeah, well, I knew the odds were that they were going to catch me, so I knew it was just most likely they're probably gonna catch me at some point. So when they do, like, I have to race. Like, for me, like, and that was kind of how I was going in. I thought there's a chance I could have the lead, 4 miles in, and then we regroup at like 5 miles, and it's like, then I figure out, okay, where I'm gonna go. And so it kind of just bides me some time and gets me into the race. So then I'm thinking, okay, then after I had the lead, I was thinking, okay, when they catch me, like, now I have to race. Like, that's when my race is going to start, basically, because I knew, like, I'd have to respond, in order to run with them. So then when they passed me, we were towards the end of the hill, and I mean, the hill was a struggle for me, so I couldn't exactly get on with them, but I was able to accelerate and kind of minimize the gap, and so they maybe only got like 20 meters on me by the time we got up over the hill. And then I just had to, like, make a move hard on the downhill to catch back up, because I knew I had to be at least attached to the pack if I wanted a chance to beat some of those guys. So yeah, that's kind of what happened. I was able to accelerate, get to the top of the hill, and then really accelerate on the downhill, and then pull back up right even with the leader. And that's kind of right before he made his real big move. And then I kind of got like dropped again, but I was at least like in contact with everybody, just kind of off the trail end of the whole pack. So then in the last mile, I was able to run some people down because I was within striking distance.
Yeah, and you were really only like a little bit more than a minute behind the first place person, right?
I think it ended up being like a minute and 50 or so.
Oh,
I mean,
because
he beat everyone else. I mean, he won by 43 seconds, all in the last like 3.5 miles of the race.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
his last yeah, his last 5K or his last like 4 miles was really impressive because he blew everyone away.
Yeah, like how did you feel the first like 23 miles of the race if you were able to like kill it that hard in the last 3 miles?
Yeah, because he was running under 4:30 pace like the whole last 3 to 4 miles.
Wow. Well, when you're in the lead like that, I think back to 2014 when Meb did that. He was out by himself, and then nobody ended up catching him. And so I thought, oh, maybe that was like maybe I can just hang on as long as I possibly can. Though I'm certain Meb had ran Boston several times before that. So this was your first Boston experience. This is like your first time like going up the Newton Hills. Tell me what those felt like.
Well, yeah. So the first of the hills, I never really noticed like a huge hill. I just kind of noticed it in my splits. Like I was slow, so I was like, okay, I must have been running uphill. So yeah, I mean the hills really weren't that bad. I think I was tired by the time I hit the hills. Um, and then I mean some of them were. I mean they were hard just because they're long. They're kind of longer, but they're not really that steep. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing about the hill. Like everyone has ran much tougher hills than those. It's just kind of where they're at on the course that make them difficult. And yeah, and then everyone has, just different strengths. So it's like if you're good on hills, then it's nothing, and you're probably gonna
Yeah.
pass a lot of people. For whatever reason, like my stride, I just typically haven't ran as fast like on those types of gradients, or just any sort of uphills. But yeah, but I didn't think they were too bad. I mean, Heartbreak Hill wasn't fun, and it was also like my most tired point in the race, and I wasn't moving very fast. But I still don't think the hills were like knowing what the hills are now. I wasn't actually intimidated at all by the hills, which is why I went out so fast, or why I went out the way I did. I still don't think I went out that fast, but now that I've ran it, I feel the exact same way. Like
Yeah.
they're not that you have to be able to know how to run them, but and I think I can learn some things, but I still don't think that they don't warrant the conservative that I think some people give them because they're not really that challenging, or you can run well. I mean, Colin Binney ran really well up them, and I don't think he's like more talented than me. So it's like they're kind of things get their name and their reputation, and like they
Yeah.
kind of like they grow larger than they really are.
Totally.
Which is fun. I mean, it's fun to do that, but when you're out there, they're not bad.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's fun that it's like a thing. Yeah, I totally get what you're
Yeah.
saying. Like people mark on the road like Heartbreak Hill or whatever. Do you feel like now that you know the course though, like does that make you excited to kind of master it and perfect how you perform on it?
Yeah, definitely. And knowing kind of how, because those first few miles were a little bit steeper than I expected, and so um, yeah, I can do more uphill work, and I think most people would be like, oh, you got to do more uphill work because that's where you struggled, and like that's true, but I think I can also double down more on the downhills, um, and just get a little bit steeper work downhill so that my legs are a little bit more fresh when I get to the latter stages. Because I think my legs did break down a little bit more than I anticipated, just because of it was slightly steeper, and there was just a lot of downhill, even more than I anticipated, and I was able to run faster than I thought I would, but then that can also lead to some breakdown, and so yeah, I mean, training for it again, I would just kind of double down on my downhill work, get a little bit better on the uphills. But, I think that first half, can be closer to 63 minutes than 64. And I think to really be competitive, you have to be able to run like 63 low and then 64 minutes the second half to be able to run like 207, 208. Because, moving forward, not all the races are going to be as slow as they were this year. So you got to be able to run fast. And for me, that means I have to be able to run the first half fast and still be somewhat not broken down on the second half.
I know you lean towards longer distances and you said like, oh, that was technically a PR for me in a half. It's downhill, whatever. But like, do you want to like run a half just to see what you can do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against running a half. It just hasn't worked out on the calendar. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have. I don't feel like I need to run like a fast half to be
Mm.
like, oh, I can do this. So then I can like, I just, yeah, I don't feel like I need to do it. But if a race comes along that works well within my racing schedule, and just life schedule, then yeah, I'd do a half. And I'd anticipate I could run somewhere in the 62 minutes, um, but I also don't really care that much.
You seem confident, but like, did that race give you confidence about like what you can do on a big stage? You were the second American to finish.
Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, it definitely gives me confidence. I mean, I had confidence going in, but the more times that you do something, the better it gets. And like I had like some struggles like my to end high school and early years of college where I felt like I was fit, but I'd race pretty bad. And so like, those are still in the back of your mind. Like, okay, like I know training has been going well, but like I don't want to blow up. I don't want to
Mm.
have a terrible race out of nowhere. And in the marathon, that can happen. It's never actually happened to me before, but like it's like you always know that it could. And so sometimes, you just have those like past thoughts that are like, oh, well, like I don't know, what if it just goes bad? And so the more times that you just race consistently, like those thoughts get pushed back.
Mm.
Like they're less and less real because it's like like now I've run 211 like 3 times, and then I've always kind of raced the marathon where I thought my fitness was. The marathon project wasn't as good of a race, but like I felt like that was a bad race, and I ran 211:18, and which was a PR at the time. So it was like, my floor has raised, and like now it's like I'm still trying to see what I can hit as far as my ceiling. Like I don't really feel like I've nailed a race and it's gone like perfect and really good, and I've ran as fast as I possibly could. But the confidence is like as my floor keeps raising, that's encouraging because it gives you can take more risks and things because it's like I'm not so concerned about not doing bad. It's like I can just focus on like trying to do really good.
Yeah, how do you going forward like when you choose to race? I talked to Sarah Hall about this a lot. It's like taking the risk, right? Like I should be fit to do this, but like things could blow up. We don't know what's going to happen. So like how do you balance like taking the risk but also like staying in your wheelhouse so that you don't blow up? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Um, I'm not entirely sure because besides, yeah, I've always been like close to the front at most of the races, so I've never really had like the opportunity where it's like, okay, I can run like 63 flat for the first half. Like in Boston, like when you're running out front by yourself, like you can only push so much because you're by yourself, so your body kind of naturally like puts you at the pace that you should be.
Mm.
Whereas like if there was like a group of guys running with me or running faster, and like people probably wouldn't have run much faster the first 4 miles, but like after we got to the more flat section, like from 5 miles to 10 miles, if there was a group that was all running 450 pace, then that would have been a time where like, okay, maybe I could have tried to go with them, even though that's way faster than I've ever ran. Um, and so then it would have been that would have been a time where it's like, yeah, maybe I would have risked, and
Mm.
who knows how it would have gone. But I also feel like it's hard. I kind of joked about this before the race for some of the other racers, but it's hard for me to really go to push that fast to where I'm going to blow up because my speed, like my 10K speed, isn't much faster than my marathon speed. So like I don't have that many gears, and even I feel like even if I like um kind of get tired, it's like I can regroup for a mile or two, and maybe I'll have like a couple slow miles, but then I can get back into like 5 minute pace or
Mm-hmm.
5:05 pace. So it's like my blowing up, like at least in the past, like traditionally, it's like I can slow down to 5:05 pace on flat land.
Mm-hmm.
Uphill, like go a lot slower, but 5:05 on flat land, and like yeah, like I'm not gonna run 2:07 like running 5:05s, but I'm not gonna slow down to like 2:20. It's gonna be So that's just typically how things have gone for me.
Do you feel like focusing on the shorter speed stuff would ever benefit you so that you can like kick it into those higher gears in the marathon?
Um, a little bit, but there's just like a balance there. So yeah, I don't know. It's like I think I have to approach it kind of from a marathon standpoint. And so like instead of like doing a lot of speed stuff to like get it faster, I kind of have to keep doing more like aerobic type stuff like with some speed, but like and kind of like knock the pace down versus like dragging the pace down. Like so there's a difference between like getting faster and then like racing a fast like 10K for example. So like the 5K and 10K, like your lactate levels and everything, you're trying to race, basically be able to race with like high lactate levels,
Mm-hmm.
which in the marathon you never do at all. So like so I have to be able to be like comfortable and be able to run fast paces, like be able to run like 4:30 pace, like pretty smooth and comfortable. But I don't necessarily need to be good at like maintaining, like running faster than threshold and maintaining high lactate levels for a long period of time or for like 20 minutes, which is like the 10K, because like that's not what my race is. So the training is different. So like I could be fast, but not necessarily be able to run a good 10K, but I'm fast for the marathon. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but it does make sense. It's just, I don't know. This is a longer discussion.
I get what you're saying. You are very like researched and you kind of like do a little bit of unconventional training from what I've seen. Can you talk about your approach and why you train the way that you do?
Yeah, I think for marathon training, it's relatively simple. I mean, you basically just have to not break down. So you're never running like faster than your threshold pace. You're not dealing with like rising lactate levels and like shutting lactate out and all those types of things. And like your VO2 max is important, but it's not like a lot. You have to be able to run as close to your threshold as you can and just be able to like hold it and not have your legs, start to break down and have like actual like muscle breakdown, which will slow you down. So it makes training kind of easy in a sense because I
I
just
love
have to
that.
like
I love that you say that it makes training
or
easy. Keep going.
simple, maybe simple versus easy, but it's like I just have to be able to run this pace for a long time, and
Yeah.
so like doing long runs is like it's just one I like doing them, but it's the easiest way to do that, and you can't practice it any other way other than just running for a long time. Like I mean, yeah, there's really no other way to do it. So, and then the other workouts, like I'm still working on my speed and working at being comfortable and improving your threshold will help because it kind of raises that ceiling as far as where you can go. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm still doing those types of workouts, but I don't have to. There's not the pressure of like getting it just right. Like a 10K, like you gotta like, well, 5K more. I think the 5K is the hardest event to train for, but the 10K is pretty hard too. Um, at least 5K, like to peak for a 5K is just so messy. Like it's difficult.
Tell me about the mess. What's so messy about it?
So like because you're running, you have to, you're running so much faster than your threshold that like you have to be really good at managing your lactate and clearing it. And then in a race, you're going to have surges. And so you have to be able to clear lactate really fast and do a lot of lactate tolerance work. But then you can only do so much of that because it can kind of take away from your aerobic capabilities and then the stress of that and just your overall hormones and everything that goes in your body when you do that type of intense work is it just is there's a real fine line balance and it's easy to overtrain.
Mm.
And then on top of that, you got to be able to develop a kick. So to be world class, you got to be able to run a 52-second last 400 when your lactate levels are already high. And so you have to have some speed and speed endurance, and that all goes in the training. And so you have to do some anaerobic work. But so balancing all of that and then peaking at the same time and getting the peak right. There's just a lot more components that go into winning a 5K. You can run a fast 5K, but to be a winner, someone that can win a race, there's a lot that goes on. and it's just hard to put all the pieces together. Whereas in marathon training, you kind of have a little bit, but for the most part, you just have one big piece, and you go in on that. Yeah, so that's why it's hard. And then for coaching the 5K, you have different types of athletes, and that balance is going to be different for all of them. So this is hard. I think it's hard to coach.
And he does coach too, just so everybody knows. Hey everybody, a quick break here to let you know that the Donna Marathon Weekend is 14 weeks away. This is the weekend of February 6th down in Jacksonville, Florida. The whole race supports breast cancer survivors, people walking through breast cancer, and it also funds groundbreaking research. The Donna Foundation is such a special organization and such a great organization to support, and this race is so much fun. It starts and finishes on the beach. They have a 5K that weekend, a half marathon, and a marathon, and they also have lots of relay options as well. I will be down there in Jacksonville with my whole family, and we're going to do a meetup. It's going to be super fun. I would love to meet listeners there. And I do have 14-week training plans for a half marathon on my website, lindseyhine.com. So you should definitely check that out if you need a training plan for that. You can use the code Lindsey10 to save 10% off of all Donna Marathon races. And you can also use the code Lindsey10 to save $10 off my training plans. So go to breastcancermarathon.com, use the code Lindsey10, and that'll save you 10%. Let me know if you'll be joining us down in Jacksonville. I cannot wait. Okay, back to the show. Tell me, when you're doing the long runs, how many, I've talked to so many different marathoners that have different strategies for this. What is your, long run, how many miles at marathon pace is your max when you're training?
I don't necessarily run them all at marathon pace. It kind of changes every build up, but I'll go anywhere from so this build up I did a lot of 22 to 24 milers, and I try to start out fast just to kind of get into that mode, and then I'd back off to maybe 5:10 or so was kind of my cruise pace. So that's around 10 to 12 seconds slower than my marathon pace, which isn't much, but I feel really comfortable at that pace. And then I try to close back down at marathon pace or faster for the last couple miles. If I'm doing a longer run, if I'm going 27 to 30, then I try to keep that around 10 to 15 seconds slower than marathon pace.
But the whole 27 to 30 miles?
Yeah.
Wow. That seems like more.
Maybe 20 seconds.
That seems and I mentioned earlier that, people have talked about you having an unconventional approach to training. That seems like a lot of miles really fast. I mean, I've talked to some people, I'll give an example, Marty Heher, who trains he's oh yeah, we just did max 12 miles at marathon pace for our long runs. And I'm that is so extremely different. I know you said 15 to 20 seconds off, but that's still really fast.
Yeah, for me, marathon pace is fairly hard, but when I back off even 5-10 seconds off of marathon pace, it's not so hard. Okay. I have a very my windows are very short. So if I back off just a touch, that's why in races if I'm blowing up, I can kind of and I'm on the flat, I can fall back to 5:05, 5:10. So because that's kind of comfortable for me. But yeah, when you're really trying to be elite and maintain 4:55 or under, that just is a lot harder for me. The difference between 5:10 and 4:55 may not seem like a lot, but for me it's a lot.
Okay.
It's I feel like I could run 5:10 pace for I don't know, when I'm really in shape, 35.
Wow.
Even up to 40 miles. I mean, I've never done it. And my 50K was slightly slower than that, but I wasn't even. I've been in better shape than I was when I did the 50K.
He's saying he could do it faster.
Yeah, but I think that pace, I just get dialed in and I just feel really comfortable. Whereas most other people aren't like that, I guess. So but that's just my strength. Since I can do that, I just do it. And it's something that I think because I've always done it that way that I've just adapted to. So even from high school, I would do my long runs pretty fast. Like I'd go like 15 miles, like under 6 minute pace, which for a high schooler was probably pretty fast. And then in college, I got up to like 18 to 20 miles. And I remember doing one of them, like my fastest was at like 5:22 average pace.
Wow.
So I mean, so then after years and years of that, and then doing almost all of my long runs at that, like every week or every 2 weeks for, a couple years, it just, you get better at it. So now it's just kind of natural.
Do you ever run slow?
Yeah. I mean, not on like a long, I don't even know how people do long runs slow because you're just out there forever.
So long, yeah.
And it's just boring. I get bored. But on like my just normal run days, yeah, I run easy and slow.
What does
Or I
that
run.
look like?
Well, so Fresno, I live at sea level, and Fresno's pretty flat, and so it's just smooth roads.
So
like I'm
he
not
runs
running.
fast, is what he's saying.
Well, no, it's like 6:30 pace.
Okay. Yeah.
But
Tell us about, you ran the treadmill 209 marathon on the treadmill, right?
yeah,
When did you do that?
uh, last year, 2 weeks after the 50K that I did, and then it was like I think like 4 weeks before the marathon project.
Okay, yeah. So the 50K, which was a world record at the time, right?
Yeah,
242 on the track. So you do that, you do the 50K, and then you do the 209 on the treadmill. And then 4 weeks later, you do the marathon project. And I remember when you were going into the marathon project, everybody was like, what is he doing? How can he handle this? Like, and then, but people were also like, this is, he could be the one that wins this thing. So, and then you mentioned also that you didn't have a great race at the marathon project, even though you PR'd. Tell us about your mindset during that time, because that's a lot of hard work in like 6 weeks.
yeah. After the Olympic trials is kind of like when all the COVID stuff started happening. And then my training was, well, there was nothing to train for. So I really wasn't training, and I was just kind of running a little bit, but all summer I was running pretty low mileage, like 50 to 60 miles a week, maybe. Not really training for anything. And then in the fall, like I wanted to do something. So we set up the 50K, and the 50K, it was something that I knew I could do. And I was almost like so confident that I could do it, that I didn't have that like urgency in training. Like I ran enough to like, and did like enough long runs to where like it'd be like, to be in shape, but I didn't have that like passion or like that like fire to like do something I've never done before. Cause I had ran pretty much the 50K record in practice before. So I knew I could kind of do it without really doing anything special, which isn't a great mindset to have
Right.
when you're trying to train. But so yeah, my training leading up to the 50K wasn't really that good. And then, but then like once I like was it within 2 weeks, then you kind of get like, oh shoot, like I gotta be good. So like I got into the mindset, and then once I did that, then I was kind of in like, okay, my season started. I'm in like race mode. But it was still kind of, I don't know, it was still just kind of a weird time, and I was excited to run the marathon project, but not like I was like for Boston or for like, because it was just kind of, it's just a different type of race. Like we just have 50 guys and we're just going and running, and so it's just hard to like get into that zone that you really need to get into. And so that's how the treadmill run came, was because I just like, I don't know, I just wasn't really like, as normally like I wake up for a long run and I'm like really excited, like because like those are my workouts that I really go after and I have fun with them. But I just wasn't. I just really didn't even really want to do a workout. So I'm like, I'm just gonna, and it was like somewhat smoky outside, but it wasn't. I could have ran outside, but I was like, I'll just run on the treadmill. It just seemed mentally easier, which some people would be like, that's crazy. It's treadmill sucks, but I don't know. For me, it just seemed easier. And then as I was kind of like getting ready, it just popped into my mind like, let's just see if I can run 210. And then I kind of was like doing the math. Okay, what mile an hour is that? And what incline do I need to set the treadmill at to like equal wind resistance or whatever? And then I just literally just set the pace to that and started running. And I actually didn't think I'd go the full marathon, but you kind of just sort of like, all right, just one more
Mm-hmm.
mile, 2 more miles. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, I'm at 18, so I just got to finish it out. And then when I finished, I felt pretty good. And I actually added on another mile. But
You
yeah,
did?
yeah,
At the same pace?
I ran 20, I kicked it up to full 48 pace.
Ah!
I don't know. I feel like you get good at the treadmill. Like
Uh-huh.
you run slightly different maybe. And
Yeah.
I like mastered how to run on the treadmill I don't know. But yeah, it just kind of happened.
No, I know what you mean about the treadmill. I haven't ran on the treadmill in a while, but I've gone through phases where I've like done a lot of treadmill runs, and I don't know, there's like a mental thing. I can will myself to run faster on the treadmill sometimes. And I know that like the wind resistance
Well,
thing and all that.
you physically can't slow down
Right, unless you
because
push the button.
yeah, or smash your teeth or something like
Yeah.
you fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoy doing speed work on the treadmill. I don't know why. It's less intimidating to me for some reason.
Yeah.
What did you put it at for the wind resistance?
1.5%.
So you 1.5% for the whole time.
Yeah.
That seems kind of hard. I usually just bump it up to 0.5.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it seems hard now too. I don't know how I did it, to be honest. When you start out with it there, I feel like so if you start at 0 and
Yeah.
then put it at 1.5, it feels like a lot.
Yeah.
But I think since I think I warmed up with it there and then started there, so I just
That's what it was.
you didn't, yeah, this is just what it was, yeah. And maybe that was the same thing with the headwind at Boston. Like I didn't notice it because I just started like it with
Uh-huh.
that. So it was like, oh, it just is what it is.
I feel like you could have done 1.0 and it still would have been legit.
I don't know. It's set at 5. I don't know. I just use some calculator but yeah, now in my head, like, because I've been running a little bit on the treadmill, not as much, but when I think of 1.5%, like it doesn't, like sometimes I'm like, I don't know how I did that.
Yeah,
But
it seems really hard. I'm sure
yeah,
you did more math and figured it out way more than me just saying
well, I just use
one would have been
some
fine.
calculator online
Ah,
because the faster you're going, the more air resistance there would be. So like
ah.
at like 7 minute pace, 1% is like pretty equivalent,
Oh,
and then at
okay.
like 8 minute pace, it's like 0.5. The faster you
Oh,
go, because you'd be hitting more air
yeah.
or whatever. So
Oh, interesting. Okay, see? There, we all learned that this podcast episode. Okay, great. Um, okay, so what did you place at the marathon project?
I was 10th.
Oh, 10th. That's like your number.
Yeah,
What do you want that number to be?
I wanted to be one.
Yeah.
We can knock off the 0 at the end.
Do you think that like throwing in that treadmill run, it's like it sounds like you just needed to like spice up your training and like do something fun.
Yeah, and that's typically how it is. With most of those things I do, it's usually just keeping it fun. Fun for me, that my brain thinks is fun. So yeah, that's most of it.
What is your mental game look like? What is CJ seeing in his head when it's like getting really hard?
When it's getting really hard, I try to just tell myself that it's easy. So like I say, like running's easy. It should be easy. Um, So yeah, I'm kind of just repeating that, especially for the marathon, because like if it's getting really hard in a marathon, it's probably not going to go very well. So like you
Mm,
have to find a way for it to be easy or comfortable. And that doesn't mean you slow down, but you have to find a way to make the pace that you're running just feel easier. And so that's typically what I say to myself. And then also just trying to like look good and kind of look like how like a champion, like a Olympic champion, would look. And so when I was training for Boston, I was just visualizing like interacting with the crowd and like kind of like pumping up the crowd and like getting them excited and like throwing up my arms and stuff. Um, just so that like it keeps you from thinking about if you're tired or not. It's just like you're just kind of engaged in the race, like you're putting on a show, like it's just like. And so that's kind of what I did, and I envisioned doing that, no matter what place I was at the race. And then during the race, I was able to do that and kind of run with that confidence and like interact with the crowd, and it just takes your mind off whatever may be going on inside that doesn't feel good, because you're just kind of keeping things, you know. external and just running with like that confidence.
You don't have a coach, do you?
No.
Would you ever?
Yeah, I'm not like opposed to a coach. I just kind of started out, well, because I started out just doing it for fun. I wasn't trying to be competitive. I just
Uh-huh.
was like, I'm just gonna do a marathon, and then I ended up doing good and qualifying for the trials, and then kind of going from there. Um, yeah, and I've always kind of just liked to do what I want to do. So I never, but yeah, so I'm not opposed. It's just kind of like if it works out, I will have one. But also I have an idea. I mean, I have a pretty strong sense of like how I want to do things and what I know that works for me. And so, a coach would have to fit with that. And so it would have to be kind of a real unique, like specific situation, just because of how I know I am and how I do best. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, because so, obviously you want to win, and so much of this is you want your performance to be the best possible performance, but it sounds like it's also like, what am I doing that is keeping me happy?
Yeah, I think you're gonna run faster when you're happy.
Yeah. Well, and I think that sometimes people can lose sight of that. Like, oh, I have these like this big goal, this is the big goal. But if I'm not like keeping it fresh and doing what makes it enjoyable, you might miss out on a lot. Just like physically but emotionally as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, definitely. And for me, I like to experiment with things too, and just kind of, I don't know, not like random things, but just like try different things out. And part of that is fun for me.
Mm.
But then but I also think that like it can have some benefits too. And so doing things a little bit different, but in a way that it's a calculated different. But then it's also fun because it's like maybe no one's done it this way before,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna see what it does for me.
What are you experimenting with now or next?
Um, not. I mean, my last build, like my build up for Boston was, I think, pretty normal, I guess. I did some more like, I mean, some of my downhill stuff was maybe a little bit different, but I did like some more like downhill sprinting than maybe people would do. Like I did some real hard like downhill 200s and just really like almost going all out it makes you really sore, but I feel like it can strengthen you. It's also a little not dangerous, but higher risk for injury. So
Yeah.
you have to have a good foundation of strength and downhill running and like durability under you before you can do something like that. Um, and have ran fast down before, but I've built that up over time. But yeah, for like looking ahead, like if I run Boston again, for example, like that, I have just different things that I want to do, just different routes in my head that I would do to kind of simulate Boston,
Mm.
and then and every buildup is different for me, so it never goes the exact same way. It's always a little bit different, and so I can't really tell you what like the new different things will be for the next one because I don't know yet.
That's kind of exciting though to think like being able to run Boston again so quick since it's like it was in the fall this year.
Yeah, it does seem quick. So yeah, yeah. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm not like for sure doing it yet. Like I mean,
Yeah,
the
sure.
last race just happened, so like I don't
Sure.
know. I mean, I'm still figuring things out.
Are you still thinking about running CIM?
Yeah, I'm like kind of recovering still, but still running, and then I'm kind of I'm in the mindset of like planning on doing it,
Okay.
but like we're also like when our baby comes, I'm like I don't know how life will adjust there, and so I'm just like we'll just kind of see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah, that's really exciting. When is the baby due?
November 7th.
Okay. Yeah. I think you'll be fine.
Yeah,
You'll
I
be
don't know.
you'll be tired. You'll be tired. But you've probably run tired before, right?
I typically sleep pretty well, so well, no, I don't. I get good sleep. I don't always sleep. I'm a light sleeper, so I don't know. We'll see.
Me too. I'm a light sleeper as well. Is your wife a light sleeper?
No,
How did you guys meet?
she ran at Arizona State,
Oh, okay. So
so we were teammates.
oh, nice. Okay, what does she do now? Does she still run?
I mean, not that since she's been pregnant, not much, but she's a nurse.
Okay. She
She's
does
a
run
nurse at a children's
competitively.
hospital. No, she ran the Olympic trials actually in the marathon.
Oh, she did.
Um, yeah, and then I don't remember when she started working. I don't know. Basically, since she's been working full time,
Uh-huh.
she hasn't been running as competitively.
Okay.
So the Olympic trials was her last competitive race
Yeah, like a last hurrah, at least for now.
for now. Yeah.
What are you most excited about with becoming a dad?
Um, I don't know because I'm not a dad yet. I feel like people ask me like if I'm like like my feelings, and it's like I don't know. How can I have feelings about something that hasn't happened yet? Like, so when I have my baby, like then I'll know because I'll be experiencing it. But yeah, I really haven't even like, I don't know. I feel like I just don't have a lot of thoughts or feelings. It's like when I have the baby, then I will adjust and it will be how it will be. I don't, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited just like as they grow up. Like I see like when they like get into like doing things like the first initial like baby stage, I don't really know what to be excited about. But,
Well, they just sleep. I'll tell you that.
yeah.
They just for the first like 12 weeks, they just sleep all day, and you're like, "What or not the first 12 weeks, but the 8 weeks?" And you're just like, "What are you supposed to be doing something right now?" And they're
Yeah.
just sleeping. So, yeah, no, I totally get that, and I think it's different too when you're not the one that's like physically carrying a child. You have like, as a mother, and when you are carrying a child, you have like a different kind of bonding experience pre-birth. So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Hey friends, a quick break here to let you know that I am back at it with my Patreon page. We took a little break because my family moved from Indiana to North Carolina, and it was kind of a lot with 4 kids and getting set up with a new school district and all the things. But we are back. We've got 2 new episodes from September and October. Those are episodes with my husband Glenn, where we kind of talk about life, what our life is like here. And in this most recent episode, we talk about if we're going to run the Raleigh half marathon or not. Glenn pitches to me how I can meet some mom friends here in Raleigh. And there's a little Halloween talk, a little Ted Lasso talk. It's just super casual and hopefully fun. So you all can check those conversations out and support this podcast when you go to patreon.com/Lindsay Hein. And I just want to give a big shout out to everybody who stuck around because we took a 3-month break with no content over there. And your support through those months to support this podcast means so much to me. So thank you. But I am also very excited to be back at it and be delivering you content over there. So again, to support the show and get bonus content from me, go to patreon.com/Lindsay Hein. Okay, back to the show. So tell us a little bit about your coaching and how you balance out like your hardcore training and coaching at Clovis Community.
I really like coaching. It just helps. It helps me. Well, it helps my running and it helps my personal training just because I'm like kind of in that mode where I'm like constantly just reminding people like what it kind of takes to be great, and then it's also like reminders to myself. So it's like, okay, like I gotta do this too, and like just like the mindset that you have, and then just also the routine and consistency. Like I do better in routines, and so when the pandemic kind of like prevented us from practicing and meeting and having a season, my routine was just off, and it was harder for me to train. But yeah, and it's just cool to like I feel like I don't know how it is for professional runners that only run, but I feel like maybe there could be more emphasis on like how you're performing. And for me, like I still want to perform really well, and I have a lot of high goals, and I'm really competitive. But for most of my life, I'm just focusing on my athletes and trying to get the most out of them, and and being able to celebrate when they do good, and or if they don't do good, kind of talk through those hard times. And so just when you're not thinking about yourself all the time, because you just have so many other people to worry about, I guess, or to care for, I think it makes it easier for me because there's not as much pressure on my running. It's just like, I just kind of run and train what I can, and then but my like kind of focus is on like hoping they do well, and that I don't know. I found that really helps me. Maybe I guess just a balance that
Yeah.
I get the most out of myself when it's in that perspective.
You'll probably feel that even more once you have a baby.
That I've thought about that. Yeah, I feel like that too. I feel like I'm gonna be like have like just additional superpowers when I'm a
Yeah.
father.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because like you go about your everyday and your own training and your own goals and stuff. But like at the end of the day, it does end up being like taking care of your child is probably the most important job you'll ever have, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what's your like big, hairy, audacious goal? Like, what's your like dream big goal? What do you want to do?
I mean, I definitely want to make the Olympics. I feel like it's hard to think about winning until like you make it. So that's like, winning is like another like kind of another level that I think in my head I kind of haven't wrapped that around. But I mean, making the Olympics, I think right now I can see like that's a realistic
Mm-hmm.
thing that I can achieve, and that would be awesome. Um, and then I have just kind of random other goals that I don't really know how I'm gonna fit in, or if I'm even gonna like attempt them or how it's gonna go, but just kind of things in my mind. Like I'd like to win the comrades. I'd like to set the 100K record, or at least 50-mile record, or both. Um, and like I still want to go under 210. That doesn't even seem like a goal anymore. It's just like I just should do it, but I haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
So
Like, when's it going to happen?
yeah, like I just need to kind of do that. And then I think, but like long term, like I feel like 206 is like kind of another level. And
Mm.
so if you can run 206, it's like, okay, you're in a different category now. And I think like that's what, ultimately I would want, is to kind of move into that kind of, because like you kind of have the like you're a good American, but like I want to be like just good,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like that next level.
How do you get there?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's I mean, I definitely like the mindset, like I think is part of it, and I think that I have that because like
Yeah.
206, like for example, doesn't really like scare me or intimidate me, and I see how that can be realistic. And then it's just like consistency. I mean, it realistically it'll take time, and you have to continue to like work on your speed and not neglect that. So I do have to do certain types of things to keep my speed like fluid, and so that 450 pace is comfortable.
Is that what 206 is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it's just I don't know. I don't know exactly. I guess I'll find out, and I experiment. I'm doing some more things with altitude, and
Mm.
not living at altitude, but having an altitude generator, and trying to figure out how to put that into my training, and which I haven't quite figured out yet. So yeah, I don't know exactly, but I feel like it's just I have seems like I have some years to figure it out.
Yeah. Totally.
And so it'll be fun.
Yeah. I mean, patience is key. And like you said, that consistency for sure. It's hard to be patient sometimes. Do you have a hard time being patient?
Yeah. I mean, it depends. Like, yeah, with running things like time, like achieving times and stuff with running, I not necessarily, but just in general life, yes, I'm not patient.
Mm. Wait till that baby turns 3 and you're trying to get their shoes on, and it takes 15 minutes every single day before
Well, that's
school.
the thing is I would not put their shoes on. I
Well,
go everywhere barefoot, or not everywhere, but like I don't. Why you don't need to wear shoes?
I'm
If
pro
if, if the
that. Trust
school
me.
wants you, if the school wants you to wear shoes, they can put your shoes on. But if you want to play around, I mean, when they're 3, maybe I'll make them, because like they don't understand they can step on like glass and
Yeah.
stuff. But once they reach a certain age where they're aware, it's like,
Put your own
you
shoes
know,
on.
yeah, or like, mess up your feet. I don't care. Like you'll figure it out.
My kids are always barefoot, so no, I'm very pro no shoe.
Well,
So,
biomechanically, I think you should be barefoot as much as you can when
oh
you're young.
really? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we should be barefoot unless there's like nails and glass on the ground. Then, you know, but
Listen, I don't know how I've made it 9 years with 4 barefoot children all the time, and not once having like we're in the ER because so-and-so stepped on a rusty nail. Like I'm probably jinxing myself, even though I don't believe in jinxing. But my boys are barefoot 24/7 and we've yet to have any like horrible incidents. And my younger ones, like if somebody forgets shoes, we'll just go right into the store. And I'm like, just don't look at anybody. Don't just act like you have your shoes on. Just keep moving forward, keep plowing through. And nobody's ever. We were at the airport last year, and my 3-year-old's just like walking through the airport without shoes, which I realize is gross. But sometimes it is just not worth the fight, people. It's not worth it. All right, cool. Well, lastly, before we do into podcasts, just give us like a brief synopsis of your rim to rim to rim experience. Brief.
Oh,
I know. It's like, how do you go brief on that?
Yeah, that was, my friends were doing that. So they invited me and I was like, sure. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't super well trained for it. I wanted to run fast just because that's what seems fun to me, trying to run fast, but I wasn't super prepared to run it super well. I didn't do any trail training. I did not enjoy the running part of it. Like, I literally from the start, I was like, I hate this. And then it reminded me because we had this run in Arizona, the way we ran up called South Mountain, and it was basically the same terrain, and I hated it, like absolutely hated it. And then as I was running, I was like, this is Arizona. Like, what the heck was I thinking? This is the exact same trail that I hated, but now I'm doing it for 40 something miles. So, but I mean, the Grand Canyon is amazing. It was an awesome experience. Like, it was just so cool and beautiful. And you got to basically be out there by yourself. Like, once I passed the little middle station at the bottom of the canyon, I forget what it's called, Phantom Ranch or whatever, but there was nobody. Like, I saw 2 people, like, in a total of like 6 out. Like, so I was basically just by myself in the Grand Canyon. Like, it's pretty amazing. But yeah, the running part, yeah, it was whatever.
So you would do it again for the being alone in the Grand Canyon part, not for the running part.
I would figure out a way to make the running part better. Like, I think just doing it now, I would know, and I'll honestly probably end up doing it again.
You want to do it? You want to do it better?
Yeah, I won't plan. I don't know. I'll just end up doing it again somehow. I don't know if I'll like it, but I'll do it.
This is what I'm saying is unconventional, though, because I just think of like your classically trained marathoners that are running at levels that you're running at. Like, they just like right now in their career wouldn't be like, yeah, I'm going to go to rim to rim to rim, you know?
Yeah.
You have more adventure, though. You're having more adventure. You're having more fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm having fun.
All right. So we kind of covered this when I asked you what your big, hairy, audacious goal is. So you can make it something non-athletic, but what is something professionally or personally you'd like to do that you haven't done yet?
I don't know. I mean, once I have a child, it'll probably be something related to them. But right now, I feel like if our like winning state with our cross country team, because like that's our highest thing we can win, that seems like it'd be really cool. Because it's just I feel like there's more satisfaction when, as a coach, when your team wins, it's like more satisfying than when you're an athlete. At least that's how it feels for me. So I can't even really anticipate the emotions I'd have.
Everybody, if you need a spirit boost, just go to a local cross country meet. If you haven't been to a cross country meet in a long time, just go to the meet and feel the energy from start to finish and cheer on every last runner. And that energy is just so good.
Yeah, I'm at a lot of high school cross country meets. Partly for recruiting, but also just because I basically live at the park that
all
nice. The races happen at. Like, so Woodwood Park, I live like less than a mile, so I'm just always kind of there.
That's nice.
And yeah, it's just there's really almost nothing more motivating. Like, even for myself, like I can watch a JV or frosh soft race and it motivates me. Like, it just puts you in a mood to run. And so yeah, it's great.
Do you just pop over there and kind of cheer for people, and then if you're not on a recruiting visit, do you just kind of pop over and cheer and then move on with your day?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I love that.
I just jog over to the course, hang out for a few hours, and then jog home.
Do these kids know who you are? Do some of them maybe do?
Some of them, but most of them know.
Yeah, they're just like
Yeah.
random kids that are running middle school, high school,
Yeah.
cross country. I love that. That's so good. Um, okay, what is the best, most recent book you've read?
I don't remember the last book I read,
Oh,
to be
really? That
honest.
surprises me. You seem
Yeah,
so
I
intellectual.
um yeah, but I don't read books. I more mainly just read like studies and like
Research articles.
articles, research articles. My wife was like, "Yeah, what's the last?" I don't even know the last research article I specifically read. Well, I was reading about like beta alanine loading and then the different types, and then like there's like this other supplement that I was trying like called Katsuo Stamina, so that uses like anserine. I don't know how to say any of them, but it's like similar to beta alanine and yeah, I don't know. So there's something with beta alanine loading and your muscle carnosine levels.
My husband also doesn't read, and but he reads articles all the time. Not articles like you're talking about, but just like, I don't know, political articles and articles about finance and things like that. And I'm like, why don't you read a freaking book?
There's too much. This why because there's too much fluff in a book usually.
Ah,
There's like a lot of words that don't mean anything,
because you
and it's
got to
like
make it a book.
yeah, exactly. I want like the facts. I want all the content. I want just pure informational content, and then so I go through studies really quick. Like I like skim the abstract in about 20 seconds, and then I'm on to the next one. And if it's
Okay.
like really like a really cool study with like interesting results, then I'll read kind of the methods and stuff. But for the most part, I'm just like it's just rapid. Like I'm going.
Give me the dense substance. Give me
Yeah.
the things I need. What did you go to school for?
I was like exercise science in undergrad, and then I got my master's just in physical education.
Oh, okay. Did you think you wanted to be a gym teacher or something?
Yeah, well, I knew I wanted to, at some point, I knew I wanted to like go into coaching.
Okay.
And so you needed like I knew you needed a master's for like community college or some
Mm.
colleges. And then but then I was like, I could do high school too. So my program was a K through 12 credential and then a master's in PE. So it gave me the opportunity to do either one.
I mean, I always just feel like that would be the most fun job ever, but I'm sure there are some challenging pieces to it as well. Like being a high school or well, my kid's elementary school teacher, like he just seemed like such a fun, like, like just like you are a classic gym teacher. His name was Mr. Pitlock and they called him Mr. Pickles. And I'm like, this is just like so classic gym teacher.
Yeah, I wasn't very elementary because I did a student teaching for elementary school PE and I wasn't particularly good at it. I just I don't know. It's hard. It's fun. I think if you're there a lot, like you have to be there for a few years, I think,
Yeah.
to really know the kids
Uh,
but like since I didn't really have like necessarily the relationships with the elementary kids, it was just like hard and like
mm-hmm.
I don't know. But it is fun. But it was yeah, I think it was just I didn't desire to do elementary school.
It's that patience thing. Like, come on, guys. Like waiting for everybody to like do what they need to do.
Yeah. Oh, and it's also tiring. It's just really fast paced and like at least in Arizona, it's like you have a class every 30 minutes. So like
Mm.
you go through this 4-part lesson really quick and then they're out and the next class is in
Oh
and
yeah.
it's like you're going and it's and you always got to be like fully on and the kids are at their, it's PE so they're all like
Yeah.
so like it can be tiring.
Yeah. Do you remember what your gym teacher's name was in elementary school?
We didn't have my elementary school didn't have like PE. The teachers would just kind of take us out, and I don't know what we did. We just
Uh,
kind of ran around. But we had elementary school sports, so we just had like after school sports. We
mm-hmm.
didn't necessarily do like a structured lesson in elementary school.
Okay. Now everybody listening is thinking, what was my elementary school? Mine was Mr. Fox. I wonder what Mr. Fox is up to. I wonder if he's still alive. Okay. If you could have coffee, tea, or cocktail with someone fun, motivating, or inspiring, who would it be?
I don't know. Probably either Kevin Hart or Matthew McConaughey. It would just kind of depend on the day.
There's a book you
But
can read.
they both just seem. I know I've actually kind of wanted to read the Green Lights one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually thought about getting that. I just haven't. but yeah, I don't know. Both of them just seem like really interesting guys and like entertaining, like fun. But like I listened to them on like podcasts and stuff, and they're just like seems like we could just have some cool conversations.
What podcast did you listen to them on?
I think a couple, but mostly Joe Rogan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey was like doing the podcast rounds when that book came out. I feel like I heard him on like
Yeah.
5 podcasts.
Yeah. He was. Yeah.
He was even doing like some smaller ones that like I'm surprised because he's Matthew McConaughey, but he was like, I'm getting
Yeah.
this book out here.
Yeah. But Kevin Hart, I like because he does like he'll just do anything. Like I feel like he takes like full advantage of being a celebrity, so he'll go to like everything. I mean, he's just like he's literally everywhere, and like just it just seems like he's having so much fun. Like just like like pretty into sport. Like I mean, is at all the sporting events and does the NBA of celebrity all star games, but like track, like he's pretty into. I mean,
Yeah, he ran a
fairly into
marathon, I
running.
think.
Yeah, I know he did.
I think he did New
He did
York.
something with, yeah, and then I thought he was at something in LA too, but yeah, but he's done a lot of running stuff and some of like I don't know, but yeah.
I'm going to go listen to him on a podcast today. Do you think it'll make me laugh?
Yeah, yeah. Well, depending on the one you listen to, but I mean, he's also pretty like more like his more intellectual stuff. Like it's just like he's got like I don't know. I like hearing him talk about just kind of more serious things, but he always keeps it funny and entertaining. But like also what he's saying is kind of like insightful and just I don't know. I just enjoy listening.
He's smarter than people might think he is.
Yeah, no, he definitely is.
I recently listened to David Sedaris on Armchair Expert. If anybody's looking for a good one, that's a funny one. And he's also really smart. Okay. What is your last message to leave with our audience today?
I would just say, I guess, like sometimes like life is just kind of crazy and difficult or just, I don't know, hard. But just like remembering like how kind of crazy it is that like you're living. Like I think so like I kind of think there's like two ways. It's like I believe like in God, but then also like if you don't, it's like then you're a bunch of like when you break down atoms, there's like quarks and gluons, and then you break down those, and it's like we don't really know, and there's like I'm really into like quantum physics, but it's crazy because like life is like nothing, like it's literally just all empty space, and it doesn't make sense because the same things that make up a rock somehow make up humans, and like it just like it literally is so mind blowing, and so when we think about all the like problems we have and things that are real that are going on that suck, it's like but yet like we're alive. Like it is so crazy that we're living and like that the universe is here and that it works the way that it does. And so I think just like kind of having that perspective that like okay, like I have life and it doesn't make any sense and I can't explain everything about it, but like not only do I have life, but like I have like a purpose in life, and like it may feel like I don't, but like people not like depend on you, like you're gonna let people down, but like you have like a purpose, like you can like make people's lives better. And so just knowing that like your life is amazing and that like you have like a purpose to like make other people's lives even better, just kind of remembering that in the midst of like all the craziness that can be going on.
I love that. What makes you believe in God?
Um, well, different things. 'Cause there's been times where it's like I don't know if I believe or not, but one just like the craziness of the universe and like how it almost to me it almost doesn't make sense to not believe because it's like it doesn't make sense to me how all this like basically randomness can like formulate together to like create humans that can like talk how we're talking, because it's like when I break down the quantum physics it doesn't make sense how now I have a human that's like loving and also hating, all the goods and bads. Like it doesn't make sense when I really break it down from a scientific level. It shouldn't work that way. But then more importantly too is just the life experience, like intentionally and like trying to like understand God and like just the things in my life that like have happened and like I don't know, it kind of like things you can't explain, like you just kind of have to experience God like with an open mind, like, and then it's like there's things happen and it's like I can never prove it. Like I can't prove anything or like show you scientifically like like that it's proven, but like it's just like you just kind of know that it's real and that like there is like a God that like is not human but like act like relationally like a human that you can interact with, and it's just at this point like I almost like can't not believe because it just doesn't. I'm like I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to not.
Wow. That's like a really comforting perspective. I think sometimes people are like scared of what they'll like stop believing, or scared they'll start believing something they never believed before, and like investigating it and asking questions can feel really scary.
Yeah. Well, I think that that's your for whatever reason our brains are like that too. Like you don't like to change
Yeah.
what you're thinking. And I think like that like depression can be hard too because like I went through times when I was depressed and it's like I realized that I craved the negative thought patterns. Like I wanted to feel
Mm,
that way. And then it was like if something came along that I knew would make me feel good, I like didn't want it because I didn't want it. It was really weird because I was like your brain just kind of gets stuck in when it's always done, or
yes.
the thought patterns that it's in, or the belief patterns that it's in, and it's really, really resistant to change. Um, and which I also think is interesting in the Bible because it talks about like praying continuously. Like there's all these habits that it talks about doing. It's almost like as if God knew how our brains work and how it gets in these patterns. And so I find some of that interesting. But yeah, no, it's total like yeah, it's like no one likes to. I mean, changing your fundamental beliefs is like it's like that just it's not gonna feel good. It's gonna take some challenges or weird feelings because your brain's gonna be resistant to it.
So the most recent podcast I just listened to, I think you might like. It's Kelly Corrigan Wonders is the podcast, and the episode with, let me open it up. This is for maybe listeners are interested. Anytime someone brings up God, I'm like, oh, let me go there because I'm so interested. An evangelical and a Muslim walk into a conference. Okay, Pastor Bob Roberts and Muslim Ayman, I'm probably saying his name wrong, Imam Muhammad Majid. Anyway, the Christian guy and the Muslim guy are both on the podcast together, and they like do these conferences together and stuff. And it's a really interesting conversation.
Cool. So
Kelly Corrigan Wonders. And she's actually, her whole series right now is on faith. And so there's some other really good episodes on faith the past like 3 or 4 weeks that she's done. But I will say one of the most recent episodes is with an atheist, and I'm like scared to listen to it because I'm always scared that I'm going to be like pulled into the direction I don't want to be pulled into. You know what I mean? Like that, like pulled into a belief system that I don't want to believe, but I'm going to listen.
Yeah, I mean, in college, I felt like I try to find every argument for every side, like
Yeah.
other religions, but mainly atheism and or even agnostic, like because atheism doesn't necessarily make sense because how can you declare like with certainty that there's no like, but more agnostic, kind of agnostic, atheist leaning, like that makes a lot of sense to
Like I
me.
don't
So
really
like
know, but I don't think I believe in a
yeah, I don't
God.
really know, but it doesn't, I'm leaning to like there's probably just nothing, in
Yeah.
which I fully understand. So like all those arguments and then all more like Christian like Bible arguments and yeah, at times because you can on anything you can hear something, and I think this is like not even just religion, but you can hear something and a lot of things can sound good and right. So like even like political or like
Yeah.
nutrition wise or training principles wise or getting the vaccine or not, what, like you can hear someone talk and you may initially disagree with it, but like when you hear it, it's like, oh, that sounds like it could be right. Like that makes sense. And then you have to go do your own investigation on it. And then it either you find what they're saying could actually be true, or you're like, okay, no, this is where like it's not actually true. And so yeah, but yeah, because you can hear arguments that initially do pull you, and you're like, it makes you question. But the questioning, I don't think is bad.
Yeah.
It's just that when you question, and then you're like, oh, since I'm questioning, my old belief must be wrong, and it's like, no, just because you're questioning, it's like it just means you need to. It just means you need to explore it more, and then it'll either make it more real for you, like it'll make your original belief more real to you, or you'll be like, maybe my original belief like isn't actually right, because not all of our beliefs are actually the correct, like true beliefs. And so sometimes we do need to investigate more. And but yeah, I mean, you want to be careful too, like, and you want to have your sources when you're investigating, have them be balanced, because you can definitely think sometimes we can be biased with our source. Like we want certain answers, and then we
Yes,
go down,
totally.
and then it's like that. Yeah.
What were you
But
looking for? Were you looking for that answer? Yeah. And I think just too in today's world, it's like the internet is so noisy. So it's like sometimes if you don't remove yourself from that, it can be really hard to form your own opinions and your own belief system, because like people are yelling at you all the time and in every direction. And it's like, oh, maybe I believe that. Maybe I believe that. And it's like, oh no, just like remove yourself from everything and figure out what you really believe, not what everybody else is saying they believe.
yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for that discussion. I always love learning about what people think about God and all that. So I appreciate that you got vulnerable and shared that with us.
Yeah. Well, thanks for talking about it too, I guess.
Well, good luck with the baby.
Thank you.
Big
Yeah.
life-changing things.
Yeah.
And we'll be excited to see if you do, in fact, decide that you have slept enough to run CIM.
Yeah. I'm excited to find out too.
Cool. Well, thanks, CJ.
All right. Thanks, Lindsay.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, friends. Thanks so much for being here today. Thank you, CJ, for joining the podcast. You all can follow CJ and see what he does next on Instagram. He is CJ Albertson over there. You can follow me on Instagram. I am Lindsay Hine 626. You can find me on Twitter at Lindsay Hine, and join our Facebook group. I'll have another podcast with Lindsay Hine. We have a lot of fun over there. I also have a podcast for parents. If you're looking for a show that might speak to that part of your life, check it out. It's called Why is Everyone Yelling? Right? Why is everyone yelling all the time? I find myself saying that in my house 24/7. We also have some new hosts on the Illuminate podcast, which is a podcast where we share stories of people doing really good work in the world and bringing light to those around them. It's called the Illuminate podcast. Check it out. Really excited about that show. And all of these shows are part of the Sandy Boy Productions podcast network. And you can find Sandy Boy Productions at sandyboyproductions.com, as well as Instagram, Sandy Boy Productions. Friends, have a great Friday, a wonderful rest of your weekend, and as always, we will see you next Friday.